The Christmas tree lights reflected off my wine glass as I sat in the corner of my parents' living room, listening to my brother Daniel explain his latest business venture. This was the third revolutionary idea Daniel had pitched to the family in 18 months. First it was the luxury car detailing service that folded after 6 months. Then the premium dog grooming salon that never made it past the planning stage. Now he was talking about an artisanal coffee roasting company that would disrupt the entire industry. The market research is clear, Daniel said, gesturing with his scotch glass. He was 36, always dressed like he was heading to a board meeting even on Christmas Eve. Consumers are willing to pay premium prices for locally roasted, ethically sourced beans. We're projecting $800,000 in first-year revenue. Mom nodded enthusiastically. Dad looked impressed. My sister Jennifer, who worked in marketing, was taking notes on her phone. I sipped my wine and said nothing. The bank is very interested, Daniel continued. I'm meeting with them next week about a $350,000 business loan. Between that and Dad's investment, we'll have enough capital to... Wait, Jennifer interrupted. Dad's investing? Dad smiled. Daniel needs family support. That's what we do. How much? I asked quietly. $150,000, Dad said. From the home equity line. Mom looked less enthusiastic suddenly. That's a lot of money, honey. It's an investment in our son's future, Dad said firmly. Daniel has a solid business plan. The bank wouldn't be considering a loan if they didn't believe in it. Daniel raised his glass. To family support and new beginnings. Everyone toasted except me. Sophia. Mom prompted. Aren't you going to toast your brother? I raised my glass silently and took a small sip. Daniel noticed. What's wrong, Soph? Not happy for me. I'm happy you're pursuing something you believe in. But. No but. Come on. I know that face. You're thinking something. I set down my glass. I'm thinking that $350,000 is a significant loan for a business with no track record in a highly competitive market with thin profit margins. The room went quiet. Dad frowned. Sophia, that's not supportive. I'm being realistic. Coffee roasting requires expensive equipment, climate-controlled storage, distribution networks, and significant marketing spend to compete with established brands. The profit margin on roasted coffee is typically 7 to 12% after overhead. At $800,000 revenue, that's $56,000 to $96,000 profit. If everything goes perfectly. Which it rarely does in year one. Daniel's jaw tightened. Thanks for the vote of confidence. I'm not saying don't do it. I'm saying understand the risk. This from the woman who's been consulting for 3 years? Jennifer said. At least Daniel is taking action. Jennifer, Mom said softly. No, she's right, Daniel said. Sophia, you've been talking about starting a business since you were 25. You're 31 now. Still consulting. Still working from your laptop. Still living in that studio apartment. Meanwhile, I'm actually building something. Your third something, I pointed out. So what? Edison failed 1,000 times before he invented the light bulb. Edison had funding. I have funding. The bank loan, Dad's investment. Dad's retirement money. The room went very still. Excuse me, Dad said. The home equity line is secured against your retirement nest egg. If the business fails, you lose that money. At 64, you don't have time to recover it before retirement. Dad's face reddened. That's not your concern. You're my father. Of course it's my concern. Then maybe you should be more supportive instead of throwing cold water on everything. Daniel leaned back in his chair. You know what your problem is, Sophia? You're afraid to take risks. You hide behind your consulting because you're too scared to actually build something real. Daniel, Mom started. No, let me finish. Sophia's been playing entrepreneur for years. Little side projects, tiny clients, her business dreams. But she never commits to anything. She's the perpetual startup that never launches. Jennifer nodded. Remember that business plan she wrote? What was it for years ago? Investment consulting, Daniel said. She was going to help small businesses with their finances. Wrote this whole plan, made a website, then nothing. Back to regular consulting. That's not quite, I began. Playing entrepreneur again? Daniel mocked. Is that what you're doing? Sitting there judging my real business while you pretend to build something? Dad added, stick to your day job, Sophia. Let Daniel pursue his dreams. I remained silent. I could have told them the truth. That I hadn't abandoned investment consulting. I'd evolved it. That my tiny clients included 7 regional banks. That my studio apartment was a paid-off condo in a building I partially owned. That my consulting business had generated $2.7 million in revenue last year. I could have told them about the bank acquisition I'd closed 6 months ago. Community First Bank, a 47-year-old institution with 12 branches across 3 states. $180 million in assets. I'd purchased it for $31 million, $12 million cash, the rest financed. After identifying it as undervalued due to poor digital infrastructure and outdated management practices. I could have mentioned that I now owned 3 banks, 2 credit unions, and held significant equity positions in 4 others. That my financial services portfolio was worth approximately $340 million. But I'd learned years ago that my family didn't hear me. They heard what they expected to hear. Sophia, the quiet one. The uncertain one. The one who never quite launched. So I stayed silent. Daniel's phone buzzed. He glanced at it and smiled. That's the bank. They're confirming our meeting next week. Which bank? I asked. Community First. Why? Just curious. He looked at me suspiciously. You don't know anyone there, do you? Because I don't need you sabotaging this for me. I'm not sabotaging anything. Good. Because this loan is happening. The bank already pre-approved me. Next week is just paperwork and final signatures. I took another sip of wine. Jennifer changed the subject to her company's holiday party. Mom brought out cookies. Dad turned on the football game. The evening continued with me sitting quietly in the corner, watching my family celebrate Daniel's latest venture. As I was leaving, Mom pulled me aside. Don't take what Daniel said personally, she whispered. He's just excited and maybe a little defensive. I know, Mom. And honey, maybe he has a point. About taking risks. You're so cautious with everything. Sometimes you have to just jump in. I'll think about it. He hugged me. We love you. You know that. I know. I drove home to my studio apartment. Actually a 1,400 square foot corner unit with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. I'd purchased the entire building 2 years ago, lived in the penthouse and rented out the other 11 units. My phone rang as I was unlocking the door. Robert Chin, the president of Community First Bank. I'd hired him 8 months ago to replace the previous president who'd retired. Sophia, sorry to call on Christmas Eve. It's fine. What's up? We have a loan application that requires owner approval. Daniel Morrison. $350,000 business loan for a coffee roasting operation. I closed my eyes. Daniel Morrison is my brother. Silence on the other end. Then, I see. What's the application status? Preliminary approval from our loan officer. Standard small business loan, backed by the applicant's father's home equity as collateral. The numbers are optimistic. Projected revenue of $800,000 in year 1 for a startup in a saturated market. Your assessment? High risk. The applicant has 2 previous business failures. No experience in the coffee industry. The business plan shows limited understanding of supply chain logistics and market competition. If this were any other applicant, I'd recommend denial. But he's your brother. So I wanted to check with you first. I stood at my window looking out at the city lights. Robert, I need you to evaluate this loan exactly as you would any other application. No special treatment because he's related to me. If the fundamentals don't support approval, deny it. You're sure? I'm sure. But I want to review the application myself before final decision. Can you send it to me? Of course. I'll email it now. I spent Christmas morning reviewing Daniel's business plan. It was enthusiastic but deeply flawed. His cost projections were off by at least 30%. His market analysis ignored the 3 established roasters already operating in our city. His revenue projections assumed he'd capture 15% market share in year 1. An impossibility for a startup with no brand recognition. The collateral was Dad's house. currently valued at $420,000 with $180,000 remaining on the mortgage. Dad was planning to use $150,000 from the home equity line for Daniel's business, then secure Daniel's $350,000 loan with the remainder. If Daniel's business failed, which seemed likely, Dad would lose the house. I called Robert back. Deny the loan. Based on insufficient business experience, unrealistic financial projections, inadequate market analysis, and over-leveraged collateral. The applicant's father would be assuming catastrophic risk for a venture with poor probability of success. Understood. I'll process the denial today. Robert, make sure the documentation clearly states why it was denied. Business fundamentals, not personal reasons. Of course. I hung up and sat with the decision. I wasn't denying my brother's loan out of spite. I was protecting my father's retirement and preventing Daniel from digging himself into deeper debt. But Daniel wouldn't see it that way. The call came 3 days later. Not from Daniel, from Dad. What did you do? He demanded. Hello, Dad. Don't hello, Dad me. Daniel's loan was denied. Community First Bank rejected him. After they'd already pre-approved him. Loans can be denied during final review if you did this. Somehow you sabotaged this. Dad, I don't even work at that bank. How would I? I don't know how, but I know you did. You made it clear at Christmas you didn't support Daniel. Now suddenly his loan is rejected. Maybe it was rejected because the business plan wasn't sound. The loan officer said he didn't have enough experience. That his projections were unrealistic. That was your voice, Sophia. Those were your arguments from Christmas. Or maybe they were legitimate concerns. Daniel is devastated. He'd already signed a lease on a roasting facility. Already ordered equipment. Now he has $45,000 in deposits he can't get back because the loan fell through. I closed my eyes. He made financial commitments before the loan was finalized? He was confident. The bank had pre-approved him. Pre-approval isn't final approval, Dad. Everyone knows that. This is your fault. You couldn't stand to see him succeed. That's not. We're having a family meeting. Tomorrow night. 7 o'clock. You need to fix this. He hung up. I arrived at my parents' house the next evening to find the entire family already assembled. Daniel sat on the couch looking defeated. Mom hovered nearby with tea. Jennifer and her husband Mark were there. Even my Aunt Linda had shown up. Sophia, Mom said when I entered. Thank goodness. We need to figure this out. I sat in the chair across from Daniel. I'm sorry your loan was denied. Are you? Daniel asked. Because Dad thinks you had something to do with it. How would I have anything to do with it? You tell me. You were the one talking about risk and profit margins and market saturation at Christmas. Then suddenly the bank uses the exact same arguments to deny me. Those are standard lending evaluation criteria. It's too much of a coincidence. Jennifer leaned forward. Sophia, do you know anyone at Community First Bank? Why would that matter? Just answer the question. I know some people in the banking industry. It's a small community. Did you call them? Dad asked. Did you tell them not to approve Daniel's loan? No. It wasn't a lie. I hadn't told anyone not to approve the loan. I told them to evaluate it fairly. Then how do you explain the timing? Daniel demanded. Pre-approved on Christmas Eve, denied 3 days later? Loans get denied all the time during final review. Not like this. The loan officer said my business plan showed limited understanding of market dynamics. Those were almost your exact words at Christmas. Because they're accurate. The room erupted. Everyone started talking at once. Dad accused me of jealousy. Jennifer called me unsupportive. Aunt Linda said I'd always been difficult. Mom tried to calm everyone down. Let's all just take a breath. She ruined this for me, Daniel said quietly. The room went silent. I had everything planned. The facility, the equipment, the suppliers. I'd already hired a part-time assistant. Now I have $45,000 in deposits I can't recover, no loan, and no way to move forward. There are other banks, I said. I've tried. I spent the last 3 days calling everyone. They all say the same thing. Too risky, insufficient experience, over-leveraged collateral. Your words, Sophia. Everywhere I turn, I hear your voice telling banks not to trust me. Daniel, I didn't. Dad's putting the house up as collateral, he continued. Do you understand that? He's risking his home to support my dream. And you can't even be happy for me. I'm not happy about Dad risking his retirement. It's his choice. It's a bad choice. Dad, you're 64. If this business fails, you lose your house. You'll be working until you're 70 or 80 just to recover. Dad stood up. That's my decision to make. It's a decision based on emotions, not math. Not everything is math, Sophia. Some things are about faith. About family. Family doesn't mean enabling bad decisions. Daniel's phone buzzed. He glanced at it, frowned, then looked at me with an expression I couldn't read. What? I asked. He held up his phone. Email from Community First Bank. They want to schedule a meeting with me. Says I need to meet with the owner for final loan approval consideration. My stomach dropped. The owner? Jennifer asked. Why would the owner want to meet about a $350,000 loan? Daniel was staring at me. Sophia, do you own Community First Bank? The room went absolutely silent. That's ridiculous, Dad said. Sophia doesn't own a bank. Then why is she avoiding the question? Daniel's voice was rising. Sophia, do you own Community First Bank? I met his eyes. Yes. The silence that followed was absolute. Then Jennifer laughed. It was a sharp, disbelieving sound. What? Oh, that's insane. I purchased it 6 months ago. You purchased a bank. Dad's voice was flat. Yes. With what money? Money I earned consulting. Daniel stood up. You've been consulting for 3 years. Banks cost millions. Tens of millions. Community First was $31 million. I financed most of it. Mom sat down heavily. $31 million. You're lying, Jennifer said. This is some kind of joke. I pulled out my phone and opened my email. Found the acquisition closing documents. Turned the screen toward them. Daniel took the phone. His hands shook as he scrolled through the documents. Holy shit. This is real. You own my bank. I own several banks. Several. Dad's face had gone pale. 3 banks, 2 credit unions, and equity positions in 4 others. Jennifer grabbed the phone from Daniel. This can't be real. How? You're a consultant. I consult on financial institutions. I identify undervalued banks, acquire them, improve their operations, and build a portfolio. For how long? Mom asked. I started 8 years ago with a small credit union. Built from there. Daniel's voice was barely a whisper. You denied my loan. I asked the bank president to evaluate it fairly. He recommended denial based on the fundamentals. But you approved it. You had final say. Yes. And you said no. I said no because the business plan was flawed, the market analysis was incomplete, and the collateral risk was catastrophic for Dad. It wasn't your decision to make. It literally was. I own the bank. Dad sat down next to Mom. You're telling me that while we've been worrying about your career, your finances, your future, you've been buying banks? Yes. Why didn't you tell us? Would you have believed me? No one answered. Jennifer was still scrolling through the documents on my phone. These show your worth. Oh my God. Sophia, how much are you worth? The portfolio is valued around $340 million. My personal net worth is roughly $180 million after debt. Mom made a small sound. Dad just stared. Daniel sat back down. This whole time. Every time I talked about my businesses, my plans, my dreams. You just sat there listening. Yes. You could have told me you owned banks. Plural. That you were worth hundreds of millions. But you let me mock you. Let Dad tell you to stick to your day job. I learned a long time ago that telling you didn't change anything. You heard what you wanted to hear. That's not fair. Isn't it? 4 years ago I tried to tell you about my first bank acquisition. Do you remember what you said? He was quiet. You said, that's cute, Sophia's playing banker now. Jennifer said I should focus on getting a real job with benefits. Dad asked if I'd considered the tax implications, as if I hadn't spent 6 months structuring the deal. We were trying to be helpful, Dad said weakly. You were being condescending. So I stopped sharing. I built my business quietly. And at family dinners I just listened. While we bragged about our accomplishments, Jennifer said slowly. Oh my God. I talked about my $85,000 salary like it was impressive. To someone worth $180 million. Your salary is impressive. You earned it. Daniel's phone buzzed again. Another email. He read it and his face went white. What is it? Jennifer asked. It's from the bank. The meeting with the owner, with Sophia, is required for me to receive detailed feedback on the loan denial and discuss potential paths forward. He looked at me. You're going to make me come to your office, sit across from you, and explain why I'm not qualified for the loan. No. I'm going to explain why the loan as structured was too risky. And then we're going to discuss what a realistic path forward would look like. I don't want your charity. It's not charity. It's business consultation. Free of charge because you're my brother. Why would you help me? I've been awful to you. Because despite everything you're still my brother. And I don't want to see Dad lose his house backing a venture that isn't viable. Dad's head snapped up. You think I'll lose the house? If you collateralize it for Daniel's current plan? Yes. The business won't generate enough revenue to service the debt. You'll default within 18 months. But you could structure it differently, Mom said. It wasn't a question. I could. Smaller loan, different terms, realistic revenue projections. Daniel would have to start smaller, build gradually, prove the concept before scaling. It wouldn't be the dramatic launch he's planning. But it might actually succeed. Daniel was quiet for a long moment. You really think my plan won't work? I think your passion is real but your numbers are fantasy. You're trying to do in 1 year what takes most successful roasters 5 years to build. And if I come to this meeting? Listen to your advice. What then? Then we figure out what a viable version of this business looks like. Maybe it's smaller. Maybe it's staged. Maybe it's a different approach entirely. But it's something that doesn't destroy Dad's retirement. He nodded slowly. Okay. I'll take the meeting. I'll listen. He looked at me. I'm sorry. For all of it. For mocking you, for assuming you were failing, for everything. I'm sorry too. For not being more direct. For letting you walk into a loan denial without warning. You were protecting Dad. I was. But I could have handled it better. Jennifer handed back my phone. I feel like an idiot. We've been treating you like the unsuccessful one for years. You weren't treating me like anything. You were seeing what you expected to see. Which was? Sophia, the quiet one. The one who never quite launches. The one who needs guidance and advice. But you didn't need guidance, Mom said softly. You were already successful. I was doing fine. I just did it quietly. Aunt Linda, who'd been silent this whole time, finally spoke. How much is a bank consultation worth? Everyone turned to look at her. What? She said. I'm just asking. If Sophia's giving Daniel free consulting and she usually charges for that, how much is he getting? I considered. For a comprehensive business restructuring consultation? Usually around $50,000. Daniel's eyes widened. You charge $50,000 for consulting? That's my institutional rate. For small businesses like yours, I'd normally charge $15,000 to $25,000 depending on complexity. And you're doing this for free. Your family. I don't deserve it. Probably not. But I'm offering anyway. The meeting happened 3 days later. Not at the bank. I had Robert set it up at a neutral location, a conference room in a business center downtown. I didn't want Daniel to feel ambushed by the bank setting. I arrived with Robert and 2 of my financial analysts. Daniel came alone, carrying a worn notebook and looking nervous. Thank you for coming, I said. Didn't feel like I had much choice. You always have a choice. But I'm glad you're here. We spent 3 hours going through his business plan line by line. Robert, who'd built his career evaluating small business loans, was surprisingly gentle in his criticism. My analysts contributed market data Daniel hadn't seen. I focused on the big picture, what was possible versus what was probable. By the end, Daniel's original plan had been completely restructured. Instead of a $350,000 loan to open a full roasting facility immediately, we proposed a $75,000 loan to start with a co-roasting arrangement. He'd use someone else's facility, learn the business, build a customer base, prove the concept. Once he hit specific revenue milestones, We'd consider expanding to his own facility. This feels small, Daniel said. It is small. That's the point. You learn on someone else's equipment. You build expertise. You make mistakes when the stakes are low. It could take 2 years to get to where I wanted to be in 6 months. Or it could take 6 months if you're really good at this. But you'll get there with money in the bank instead of drowning in debt. He looked at the revised projections. Dad's house isn't collateral in this version. Dad's house never should have been collateral. If you can't get a business loan without risking your parents' retirement, you're not ready for that business loan. That's harsh. It's honest. He nodded slowly. Hey, I'll do it this way. You're sure? Yeah. Actually, looking at these numbers, your version makes more sense. I was trying to do everything at once because I was afraid if I didn't move fast, I'd lose momentum. But you're right, I'd probably just lose money. Robert slid the new loan documents across the table. This is pending board approval, but given Ms. Chen's position, that's a formality. Daniel looked at me. You're approving this? On the condition that you work with our small business advisory team. Monthly check-ins, quarterly reviews. We want you to succeed, but we also want to make sure you're on track. That's fair. He signed the documents. Afterward, as Robert and the analysts packed up, Daniel hung back. Can I ask you something? He said. Of course. Why did you do this? After how I treated you, you could have just denied the loan and been done with me. Because you're my brother. And because I remember what it's like to have a dream that everyone thinks is stupid. Your dreams weren't stupid. You bought banks. I bought banks after years of people telling me I was wasting my time, that I should get a real job, that my ideas were too ambitious. We said that to you. You did. And I almost believed you. But I decided to do it anyway. And now you're worth $180 million. Now I'm running businesses I believe in. The money is just a side effect. He smiled. You sound like one of those motivational speakers. Sorry. No, it's good. He paused. Can I tell you something? Always. I always felt like I was competing with you. Even when I thought you were failing. There was something about the way you just did things. Quietly, without drama. It made me feel like I had to be louder, bigger, more impressive just to be noticed. Daniel, you never needed to compete with me. I know that now. But for years I was the successful one. The impressive one. And you were, I don't know what I thought you were. But I needed you to be less than me so I could feel like more. That's honest. I'm trying to be better about honesty. We walked out together. In the parking lot, Daniel stopped beside his car. One more thing, he said. At the next family dinner, can we not tell everyone about this? About you helping me restructure the business. Why not? Because I want to do this on my own. Prove I can make it work without my rich sister bailing me out. I'm not bailing you out. I'm offering you a fair loan at market rates with reasonable terms. Still, I want to succeed or fail on my own merit. I understood. Hey, as far as anyone knows, you got a smaller loan from Community First based on your revised business plan. Which is true. He smiled. Thanks, sophomore. Good luck with the roasting. I'll need it. The family dinner the following Sunday was different. Daniel announced he'd gotten loan approval from Community First. For a smaller amount with a different approach, but approval nonetheless. Everyone celebrated. Dad looked relieved that his house wasn't collateral. Mom was happy Daniel had support. Jennifer asked intelligent questions about the co-roasting model. And I sat in my usual corner drinking wine, listening to my family talk about their lives. Except this time when Daniel described his business plan, he'd glance at me occasionally. A small look. Just checking that he was explaining it correctly. Getting the details right. After dinner, Mom pulled me aside in the kitchen. I want to apologize, she said. For what? For not seeing you. For all these years I thought you were struggling. I worried about you constantly. Your small apartment, your uncertain career, your quiet life. And the whole time you were building an empire. It's not an empire, Mom. It's just a business. It's a $340 million business. Fair point. He hugged me. I'm proud of you. I should have said that years ago. You're saying it now. That counts. Are you happy? Truly happy. I thought about it. My portfolio of banks and credit unions. My team of analysts and advisors. My quiet condo with the city view. My life built exactly how I wanted it, without drama or spectacle. Yeah, Mom. I'm happy. Good. That's all I ever wanted for you. 6 months later, Daniel's coffee roasting operation was thriving. He'd built a loyal customer base, developed relationships with local cafes, and was on track to hit his revenue milestones ahead of schedule. At a family barbecue, he pulled me aside. I'm ready, he said. For what? My own facility. I hit the targets you set. Revenue, profit margins, customer retention. I'm ready to expand. That's fantastic. I wanted to ask, can we meet? About a larger loan. Of course. And Sophia? This time I'm coming with realistic numbers. Good. That'll make the approval process much easier. He laughed. I've learned a lot in 6 months. About coffee roasting. About business. About patience. About the difference between dreaming and planning. He paused. About humility. That's the big one. Yeah. Turns out being the loudest person in the room doesn't make you the smartest. No. But being willing to learn does. We met the following week at the bank. His new business plan was solid. Realistic projections, comprehensive market analysis, staged expansion with clear milestones. Robert approved the larger loan that afternoon. As Daniel was leaving, he turned back at the door. You know what's funny? What? For years I thought I was the successful sibling. The one with the impressive career and big plans. And you were just there. Quiet. Unremarkable. And now I realize you were always successful. I was just too loud to hear it. After he left, I stood at my office window looking out at the city. At the neighborhoods where my banks operated. At the businesses we funded. At the lives we helped build. I thought about that Christmas dinner when Daniel mocked my small business dreams. When Dad told me to stick to my day job. When everyone assumed I was the unsuccessful one. And I thought about how satisfying it had been when Daniel's phone buzzed with that email requiring the bank owner's approval. Not because I got to deny him. Not because I proved him wrong. But because finally, they saw me as I actually was. Not Sophia the uncertain consultant. Not Sophia the quiet dreamer. Just Sophia. The woman who built a banking empire while everyone else was too busy talking to notice. And in the end, that was worth more than any dramatic revelation or public vindication. It was worth watching my brother succeed. Watching him grow. Watching him learn that success isn't about being the loudest or most impressive. It's about doing the work. Quietly. Consistently. Whether anyone's watching or not. That's what I'd been doing for 8 years. And I'd keep doing it for 8 more. Not because I needed to prove anything to anyone. But because I'd learned something my family never understood until it was too late to ignore. The quietest person in the room is often building something so significant that words would only get in the way.